If you are struggling with the Zap Mass Witch, or if you're brand new to the attack, this video is going to explain everything you need to know. First and foremost, let's go over the base identification necessary to use this attack. We want to first start off by looking at the key objectives that you want to get rid of. Primarily being the Inferno Towers set on multi with the lightning spells, and you also want to try and get rid of the Town Hall, and you want to try to get rid of the Eagle Artillery if you can. This is going to either be early or later. It really does depend on what siege machine that you're bringing and where you're attacking in from. So those are going to be things that you want to try and clarify. If you're seeing one single or two singles, you may want to try to be flexible with your spell space by bringing maybe 4 lightning spells and an earthquake in order to kind of get rid of those. So you always want to try and consider different things if you're seeing different modes of Infernos. So on screen, you're also going to see the number of lightning spells that you need for each and every defense in the game. You never know when you're going to need to take down other buildings like a cannon or archer tower, and this is going to be a really big help because you want to try and create pathing using the ZapQuake and the Earth, or using that ZapQuake, just to kind of get down some of these defenses and create a little bit more pathing for your attack. Another thing to really consider as well is going to be the differences between using a wall wrecker and using the siege barrack. So something that is very important, you'll see to the left of me here, is some information regarding this. When using the wall wrecker, you need to look for an area where you can't really use a jump and a super wall breaker or two in order to break through the base. Typically, you're going to be using the siege barrack for that. So what I would recommend is that if you can use a jump spell with a couple super wall breakers to break you through, you can use that jump to get through the core of the base and easily move in. That's all you really need to do. So for the most part, that is when I would use a siege barrack. You're going to have more troops, and that's what's going to help for the most part. However, if the base is a little bit more narrow and you can get some really nice funneling in with the witches and keeping a lot of your witches in the core, you can use the wall wrecker to push your way into the base. So those are things to really keep in mind when you're doing this. So you want to try to use the wall wrecker on the opposite side of the town hall in case that there is very little to no jump value and using the super wall breakers. So this is going to give you guys an example of how to basically use this with the wall wrecker instead. So starting off, we've got the use of the ZapQuake. Notice that we're using the earthquakes a bit more offset to weaken up the expos and also the Inferno Tower that's in the core, or that's by the town hall. Now what we're doing here is we want to try and create a funnel by using a couple of the flank witches on either side, by them kind of going in this direction, by using a couple balloons. We can create the funnel for most of this to kind of move in for the rest of the base, and that's really something that you may want to consider when you're doing this attack. Another thing that you want to consider is knowing when to use that warden ability. You want to protect the wall wrecker and the witches as they move into the core of the base. This example, we're just going to use a freeze on the Inferno Dragon, but as we get into the core, we want to try to use that warden ability to protect the wall wrecker along with the witches and the heroes as they move into the core. And as it moves in, we will have a lot of witches, a lot of skeletons, and the heroes still remaining to move into the base. That's exactly something that you want to try and consider. And remember, you've got the witches on either side just creating a little bit more of a funnel for you to keep moving in. And that's exactly why you used the ZapQuake on the Infernos and other defenses, in order to make sure that you're able just to slightly weaken up that area and make it easier for your witches to move through. That's it really for this attack for the most part. You get the idea of using the witches to create a little bit of a funnel on either side and sending them for the most part into the core to provide a lot of support for your heroes and your wall wrecker as you push in. That's really everything that you kind of need to know about this attack. Those are the basics, and those are the things that's going to help a ton. So for the most part, in this example, you saw that towards the end, we did lose a lot of our witches, but that really doesn't matter when you still have all your heroes up. Now let's give you guys an example as well if you do not have max golems and you may want to use something else. So if you do not have max golems, consider using the super giants instead of golems. These are definitely very good super troops as they have a lot of health for these individual troop space, which is only costs 10 housing space. So it's a very good super troop to bring in case you do not have max golems. Now for the most part, remember that everything is still the same for this attack. You're just using the ZapQuake to get rid of the Inferno Towers, getting rid of anything within there, like the Archer Towers in this case, or the Wizard Towers and Warden Altar. So definitely there's things that you really want to try and make sure that you are getting rid of by using that ZapQuake. Now also, you can use the Super Giants. Like I mentioned, you're just going to be sending them in as tanks, as kind of in a wall here, and you're doing that same thing with the Witches. So you're just making sure that you're able to create just enough of a funnel, that way your heroes can move right into the core. You want to make sure that you're placing down your Warden a little bit earlier in order to make sure that the Warden aura is still in range of the town, or of that wall wrecker. That way you're able to move it in and protect it in case it gets low. In this example, we did lose the wall wrecker a bit earlier, but that was because the Warden kind of decided to stay back. So you want to make sure that you're placing him in first for the most part. But you can see that we're pushing everything through. We've got a lot of witches on either side with a couple super giants there in order to provide just that little bit more of a funnel as we continue to push in. And even though it looks like this attack may thin out and may be a 1-star, we still have the heroes alive with the King and Queen abilities still intact, along with using the Warden ability. This way we're able to protect our troops as we move into the next part of the base where the town hall is. This big channel is going to basically be that next spot. So you can see that we're just saving onto the abilities, saving onto the king, saving onto the queen, and as long as you can keep your heroes alive, because for the most part, you're going to have a lot of stuff right in front of your heroes. You'll still have tanks like the golems, super giants, or ice golems in there, and they're going to be tanking there, along with maybe a couple skeletons in there as well, and you're going to just have a lot to move through. But for the most part, as long as you can get rid of the town hall by using the queen, you're able to easily still move through the rest of the base. As long as you still have witches up, as long as you still have the heroes up, you're able to still easily move through the rest of the base with ease. Now, this is only one example of using the super giants. Let's give you guys an example of perfect pathing when using the Zap Witch. Now, this is going to give you guys an example of using a little bit more funneling troops to create perfect pathing for your witches when you push in. You want to try and consider that you are getting rid of a fairly good part of the base by using the ZapQuake on both sides. So by kind of getting rid of an area like this, you're kind of trying to create just that little bit more pathing for your attack. And you want to make sure that this is the case. That way you're able to kind of get rid of some of these buildings, and then using the P.E.K.K.A. and baby dragons on either side, you're able to create just that little bit more on either side. And this is just going to make it easier for you to take a look at the value that you're going to get from your wall wrecker. So notice that we're going to be getting rid of the multi and the eagle artillery thanks to the easy pathing of that wall wrecker. So that's exactly what we're going to be seeing in this case. So by using a couple of the lightning spells, and we also have the use of 2 earthquakes rather than just using 1. The main reason to why you would want to use 2 is because they do a little bit more damage, even though the damage does decrease the number of earthquakes that you do. But for the most part, when you use 4 lightning spells on these defenses, you're able to basically weaken them to a point where 2 earthquakes are enough to take them down. So you want to try and consider that. But make sure that you know that when you're using 2 earthquakes, the earthquakes do weaken in damage the more that you use them. So the max should only be 2 earthquakes on a particular inferno and other defenses around there. Now you'll see that we're going to be using the wall wrecker here, and notice that everything and I mean every single witch is going into the core of the base. We're pushing through and we're making sure that we have a solid funnel set for these witches to move in. And we use the warn ability there in order to make sure that everything kind of pushed in. You may also notice the use of this super wall breaker here. That way we're able to break through and get over to this town hall. So that's exactly something that you want to consider when you're using this attack. Consider bringing in the use of a super wall breaker in order to break yourself right into the next compartment to open up the town hall for the witches as they continue to move in, and they're going to provide a lot of support. And you can see from this base design right here, take a look at all these witches that you still have up. We might still have all of them up on the map, but as long as you're able to keep a large portion of your witches alive by having the skeletons basically be in front of them, and as long as you have the golems there and the ice golems and maybe the P.E.K.K.A.s to really create that funnel and keep them as a tank, you can really offer yourself a lot of really good value. So using this attack is still a very, very easy and very simple to approach. You just want to make sure that you're creating enough of a funnel, that way you can get your witches to move right into the base. But for the most part, those are going to be the things that you may want to consider. But we're not done just yet. We've also got a couple more examples using this siege barrack and also using bowlers as well. Now, like I mentioned before, we've also got the use of the siege barrack and using the jump and the super wall breakers. Remember that you should only use this if you can break open a wall here and use a jump spell over on the back end part in order to jump across. Remember that you are using the ZapQuake to get rid of these infernos, so try to look at the defenses around where you're going to be using the super wall breaker and the jump. You're getting rid of the town hall, inferno, and eagle artillery, thanks to them being fairly close together and on one side of the base. Fairly simple stuff. So you'll kind of see exactly what we're doing. Another thing is, if the inferno towers are fairly close together and they are in range of an earthquake spell, then you can use the earthquake right over both of them by using 4 lightning spells on either of them in order to make sure that you're taking them down and using 1 less earthquake. Now you'll see here is that we're going to be using a lot of troops on the map. That means that we're going to have the siege barrack right behind with the wizards and the P.E.K.K.A. from that. And then we've got these witches, the skeletons, and the bowlers pushing in for the town hall and the rest of the defensive buildings. So you want to use that warn ability though to protect your heroes as they go through stuff like headhunters or the enemy clan castle and through the town hall as well. You want to make sure that they are staying protected. But for the most part, you want to try and have a large amount of troops going through. And you can see we have a large wall of troops moving in. And on top of this, we will have hog riders from the siege barrack. This means that it's basically allowing us to have even more troops on the field. And you can see that we have a lot of them. Bowlers, skeletons, the golems are still up, the hog riders, and the witches. They're just moving through the base. And this is really easy for you as long as you're able to have a solid jump spell that's able to get you deeper into the base for your heroes and any witches that move in. So for the most part, this gives you guys a very good example of what you should be doing when using the siege barrack. It may look like this attack is entirely thinning out, but that doesn't really mean too much when you're using a large amount of troops just spreading across the whole base. And that's exactly something that you want to consider when you're using this attack, because for the most part, that siege barrack is just going to supply you with even more wizards and a P.E.K.K.A. as well, along with hog riders. So unlike the wall wrecker where you're able to get through, if you're able to sort of get through using just a super wall breaker and jump like you saw earlier, it's going to be able to open up a little bit more, and it's going to open you up to using the siege barrack instead of using the wall wrecker. And that's just one example of using the wall or of using the siege barrack, but let's give you guys a couple more examples of using the Zap Witch here at Town Hall 12. Now here is the final example, and what I just want you guys to look at is, again, we want to look at the basics, we want to use the ZapQuake, but we're going to let this one play through. You guys know what the basics are. I've been talking about it throughout this entire video. You know what you're going to be trying to look for, using the lightning spells on, getting rid of some defenses to really help with the pathing. This is an example very similar to the second example, or the third example that we showcased. This one is using the Ice Golems included. This is just going to give you guys and open your mind to using maybe a little bit of a different way. So we've got witches, we've got a couple witches on either side creating a funnel. Like I mentioned before, we're trying to send in a bulk of our witches behind the wall wrecker to move right in for the town hall. Again, it is in a line, so that's exactly why we're going to be doing this. So we do have the use of Ice Golems that we can provide as tanks on the sides for the flanking witches. So you can see that for the most part, we've got the Ice Golems being used on either side, just creating a little bit more of a funnel while we send the rest of them in. So you can see that we have witches on both the left and on the right side, with the witches going through the middle as well. And you'll see that we're just allowing the wall wrecker and the heroes and the witches to move straight through the base. And we're trying to make sure that we're keeping everything alive as they start to move in and as they get to the town hall. Then we can really overwhelm that by using yetis or using the witches as well. So there you have a lot of things that you can really include in there. Even sneaky goblins can be used in that wall wrecker to get rid of a lot of structures there. But for the most part, you can see that this is a very easy attack strategy. All you're doing is sending in the witches. You are kind of praying a little bit that they'll go in the right direction, but you want to try and create just enough of a funnel in order for you to move right through the base. So even though this example may not look the cleanest and it may not be the easiest attack strategy to always get 3 stars with, you may want to keep this one in your arsenal. It's very strong, and as long as you're able to use it plenty of times and you see some success with it, it is worth using more often than not due to the amount of either single target infernos or the amount of times that you will basically be crushing bases with this. So you want to always consider those things. But for the most part, that's going to give you guys a good idea of how you guys can use this attack. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought about the video, and make sure that you guys follow me over on the social. Make sure that you guys go ahead and join my community Discord server. Make sure you guys follow me over on Twitch, and make sure that you guys use code CorruptYT in the Clash Champ shop to save 10% off your purchase. Other than that though, guys, that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. Corrupt, signing out.